Here we go, folks. Let's do it. You're in the right place. The insanity in Iran, the holy war in Iran is in, I think it should be called the holy shit war. That our psychopaths, our resident psychopaths have decided to engage in Iran. It continues by the day. Already, Trump is trying to blame it on other people. The White House has admitted that 140 U.S. troops at least have been injured already, with, of course, at least some dead, although it's possible the number dead that they're admitting to is not, it's far lower than the reality. But they have admitted 140 have been injured in the Iran strikes, the Iran retaliatory strikes. Let's be honest here. Iran didn't start this shit. We've got Democratic lawmakers saying that the Trump, that from, behind closed door meetings, they see that Trump has absolutely no plan. Most of America, according to polling, thinks that Trump engaged in this war to cover up the Epstein files. I got a lot for you on today's hour, so please click thumbs up, click share, click subscribe, and let's get into it. And we've got an update on the Epstein guard that was apparently receiving large, interesting money donations, we'll say, at the time that they were managing not to notice that Epstein had just suicided himself in his cell there in New York City. But anyway, let's start off with this. Here is Donald Trump already shifting. There's two things that are kind of horrifying about the clip I'm about to play, which is one is that Trump is already, I don't know about horrifying, but Trump is already seeming to shift the blame as to who decided it was time to kill the Ayatollah and start bombing Iran. But the other aspect of it is this is Trump admitting that his decision was made by his fucking son-in-law and other idiots that he has somehow decided to listen to. I mean, you know, all these people are idiopaths. They're all idiot psychopaths. So, I mean, it's like we listen to one over another. I don't know. Should we be more upset if Trump listened to Kushner, or more upset if Trump listened to the old voices in his head? Is tough to know. But anyway, let's see. Here is Donald Trump admitting that the decision was not really his as to when we're going to attack and bomb Iran.
The situation was very quickly approaching the point of no return, and the United States found it intolerable, in my opinion, based on what Steve and Jared and Pete and others were telling me, Marco, so involved, that I thought that they were going to attack us. I thought they would, if we didn't do this at the time we did it, I think they had in mind to attack us. And
so there he is admitting that he was basically lied to by, shocker, by Jared Kushner, Steve Witkoff, Marco Rubio, etc., into bombing Iran. Now, this is upsetting a lot of people who I guess want to believe that the commander-in-chief makes the decision, not other people lying to him. But in my opinion, it's kind of like, well, he's a demented, and I mean that in all regards, has dementia, is demented, all regards. So whether it's him lying to himself or him lying to Americans or his fucking son-in-law lying to him, doesn't really matter. I have talked extensively about the real reasons that the U.S. has wanted to go to wars, wanted to collapse Iran for decades now. But as to how much Donald Trump knows about the reality of the petrodollar, you can debate that yourselves. I don't know who actually makes those decisions. But a lot of people are not so happy to hear that, Jared Kushner told me it was time to bomb Iran. Here is this from the Hill. Democratic lawmakers are saying that the U.S. seems to be on the path toward deploying American troops on the ground in Iran. Iran having, in many regards, great success in their retaliatory strikes against the United States. The U.S., let's be clear again, fucking started this shit, okay? The U.S. is also, I'll talk more about this in a bit, but it has already struck 10,000 civilian sites in Iran. Professor Jeffrey Sachs calls this carpet bombing of Iran. Of course, these are war crimes, but it is a great difference between Iran's largely very carefully selected strikes and the U.S. and Israel bombing civilian sites, double tapping, as they say, the girls' school where they killed 160 young children. And it seems that it was intentional. It seems that it was intentional to kill 160 young girls in Iran. And that's just one of many civilian sites they have hit. But anyway, Senator Richard Blumenthal left a Senate Armed Service Committee briefing on the Iran war Tuesday, saying he believes the Trump administration is on a path to putting U.S. troops on the ground in Iran. We seem to be on a path to deploying American troops on the ground in Iran to accomplish any of the potential objectives. And Blumenthal, after this thing, was furious at that backdoor presentation where the Democrats were supposed to be told the real reasons, the real strategies. Initially, the idea of the U.S. government was that Congress would be the one to declare war. Of course, we've done away with that for decades now. We don't even declare war anymore. Instead, if Congress signs off on anything, they just sign off on use of military force, authorization of use of military force, so that they don't actually have to declare war. But even that wasn't done this time. There is no AUMF for this absolutely horrific, catastrophic bombing of Iran, bombing of the Iranian people. And you can be furious about this in multiple ways. You can be furious that, oh, Trump doesn't have Americans' concern at heart. You know, he's doing this for the ruling elite. He's enriching the ruling elite. He wants to pillage these countries for the ruling elite. He doesn't give a shit about Americans. In fact, I just put out a Substack column. It's free to read. The Substack column. Oh, interesting. It says we just lost access to my Facebook account. Facebook, by the way, has heavily upped the shadow banning of me in recent days. So I hope the rest of you can still see all of this. But anyway, you can be furious that he doesn't give a shit about Americans. I just put out a Substack, realelitecamp.substack.com, called The Ruling Elite Don't Give a Fuck About You. And it talks about this in some ways. But you can be furious in that regard. You could also be furious in the other, like, why the hell are we killing innocent people in Iran? And it always amazes me that secondary, like, why the hell are we killing innocent people? It's amazing to me how little that seems to matter to most Americans. Most Americans are kind of just like, yeah, oil prices are going up. I don't like that the oil prices are going up and the food prices are going up, and this makes it harder for. I think we should be pretty furious about both things, but. And let's also remember that the Democrats, and I'm going to play another clip of them in a second, but the Democrats, they set this in motion, right? They set this in motion by giving a dictator's toolkit to any president that came after them. Obama killed God knows how many innocent civilians in his endless bombing, his surge in Afghanistan. Bush, Biden, they were all killing thousands upon thousands of innocent people and making it seem like the norm. Like this would not be acceptable in any way except for Democrats and Republicans setting a nice red carpet out for us to have such a horrific dictator, horrific ruling elite, ruling psychopath. Anyway, here's another Democrat. This is Chris Murphy. Just after he just walked out of the briefing where the Trump administration was supposed to tell the Democrats and those in the Senate and House what the hell's going on and what exactly we're doing.
A 2-hour closed-door classified briefing on the war. Just confirmed to me it's totally incoherent. We are not going to be able to achieve any of our stated objectives. This is a disaster of epic proportions. I just came from a 2-hour
disaster of epic proportions is what the Democrats are saying. And again, I don't want to leave them or let them off the hook. They are all part of this. They gave a standing ovation to how many presidents during State of the Union addresses where they said Iran needs to be stopped and all that bullshit. They've laid down the red carpet for Israel to basically dictate our foreign policy. So don't let the Democrats off the hook. The reason I'm playing these clips is not to say, yay, Democrats. It's to say people who supposedly have more information than you and I have. They've been at the backdoor classified meetings. And by that, I mean, there's a lot of backdoor action going on. That's what I mean. That's what I'm talking about in those back rooms. But they've been at these behind closed doors meetings, and they have more information than we're supposed to have. And yet they're saying just unintelligible nonsense. There is no understanding as to what Trump's plan is. The United States is spending billions of dollars per day on this. Iran has successfully taken out most of U.S. and Israel's interceptor missiles, most radar ability. More on that in a moment. And so now Iran can essentially strike whatever they want. And you've got all these Arab nations that are allied with the United States, that have really been in bed with the U.S. empire, and they're furious as well because all of a sudden there are a lot of people going on tourist destinations to Dubai right now. A lot of people want to just head on over and check things out. I mean, like it is completely wrecking the economy of the region, but really, as oil goes up, the economy of the world will see major ramifications. I just wanted to reiterate that the White House is admitting that 140 U.S. service members have already been wounded since the Iran war started. And they say only 6, I think, have died over these 10 days. But I really wonder if you have 150 U.S. service members, and I know I shouldn't use the euphemism, just say military, 140 military members getting wounded. It does seem like the number of dead would be higher, because if you have that many wounded, generally you are going to have more dead. But I could be wrong. Maybe it really is just 6 military members. Service members is a euphemism, because, yeah, I suppose some join up because they think they're in some sort of service because they've bought into the propaganda, and I kind of feel bad. There's a lot of simple people out there. I don't think simple people should be treated poorly. I think they're wonderful humans. I'm friends with some simple people. Simple people are the best. They're great people, but they also tend to fall for some of this propaganda, this bullshit. And so you end up thinking you're signing up as a service member. Meanwhile, you're bombing fucking children in Iran. So, yeah, let's say military members. Anyway, that number, I think, should impact a lot of Americans, because a lot of Americans, they may not care about Iranian children dying, which, like, what happened in your life that you don't care about us bombing children? But they may not care about that, but they do seem to care when U.S. military is getting unalived. There's actually, apparently, this next clip I'm going to play, there are apparently occasionally, very rarely, someone in the press corps, someone that gets to ask a question to Donald Trump and is brave enough to ask a real question. I don't know how this happens. I don't know how you get in the room and actually get to ask a real question, but here is a reporter. Trump had apparently just said that perhaps it was Iran that blew up their own children's school with 160 young girls in it. Perhaps it was Iran that did that to their own school. And Trump had said that with the Tomahawk missile. And one reporter actually asked a real question.
You just suggested that Iran somehow got its hands on a Tomahawk and bombed its own elementary school on the first day of the war. But you're the only person in your government saying this. Even your defense secretary wouldn't say that when he was asked, standing over your shoulder on your plane on Saturday. Why are you the only person saying this?
Because I just don't know enough about it. I think it's something that I was told is under investigation, but Tomahawks are used by others, as you know. Numerous other nations have Tomahawks. They buy them from us. But I will certainly, whatever the report shows, I'm willing to live with that report.
By the way, apparently there's 3 other countries, I believe, that have Tomahawks, and they're all our allies. So the idea that there's just loads of countries with Tomahawks is bullshit. Also, we now have a Pentagon strike map that showed they aimed for this school, killing these children. We also know it's laughable that even if there are 3 other countries that have Tomahawks, one of them is not Iran. Iran does not have Tomahawk missiles. And if they did, they wouldn't fire them at their own fucking schools. So it is hilarious. I'm amazed that Trump actually answered a legitimate question. I don't know that he ever does that. Normally, if anyone dares ask him a legitimate question, he just calls them a fat little piggy or whatever he normally does. So it's kind of amazing. To me, that was the biggest sign I've seen so far that Trump has dementia, which is he was asked a contentious question and just answered it. Without insulting the guy. And I don't think I've ever seen that happen. So Trump clearly unhinged, not all his faculties there. He didn't call the guy a lunatic, part of the fake news. You're a fat little piggy. He didn't like, that's not the Trump I know. Okay. There's something wrong there. Here now is, this is Elizabeth Warren when she came out of the backdoor briefing, which I'm now calling it the backroom briefing or whatever, closed door briefing. And Elizabeth Warren, let's also remember, has stood by as we've murdered millions of people, just stood by and said, yeah, but we should have health care, which is what she continues to say. Anyway, here she is. She was asked about what was said in the meeting.
Elizabeth Warren spoke after leaving a briefing on the war with Iran. Listen to this.
Here we are well into the second week, and it is still the case that the Trump administration cannot explain the reasons that we entered this war, the goals we're trying to accomplish, and the methods for doing that. The one part that seems clear is that while there is no money for 15 million Americans who lost their health care, there's $1 billion a day to spend on bombing Iran.
I do love, I mentioned the money too, so I'm not saying don't mention the money, but I love when they seem to make it just about the money. Like, we're murdering children. Yeah, the money is bad, but so if you're only going to make it about that, I think you should make it about all of the things. It should be like, hey, let's not murder children. Also, let's not spend $1 billion a day. Also, if it costs $3 a day, don't murder children, you fucking idiot psychopaths. It's a term I'm trying to get it to catch on. I've been working really hard. I get paid every time someone uses it. I get about 15 cents every time someone says idiopath. So I've been working towards that. But it is what we have. We have idiot psychopaths. We have fucking psychopaths. I've both on the last episode of Unredacted and in a Substack article, I went through the dictionary definition of psychopath. These are psychopaths. Let's call them what they are. They are psychopaths. They are terrorists. But here's the thing: is psychopaths, because they're good at manipulation, I think a lot of people view them as really smart. And it's like, no, these people are also dumb. Like, they're dumb and they're psychopaths. I think Trump and the goons around him legit thought that they would murder the Ayatollah and then that Iran would just go, oh, thank you, you're the bestest. By the way, CNN, I'm not going to play the clip because it's too revolting, but CNN also is having on reporters who are Israeli shills who say that everybody's dancing around Iran and happy to be bombed. Legit, like Jake Tapper is like, so what's going on in Iran? And you have Israeli, the Hasbara queen going, well, they love it here. They're also excited to be bombed. I was just talking to some people who lost their little girls to a U.S. strike, and they are glad. They say that is a wonderful thing that's happening. It's like, how can you put that on television without just vomiting? Jake Tapper should be vomiting all over the desk. Like, he should be neck deep in just his own vomit if you're going to air that shit on CNN. Anyway, let's keep moving here. This is a poll conducted by Dropsite News, but I don't mean like the type of polls I run where I'll put up on Twitter, hey, who thinks this war is going to last more than a week? This is when you want to do a real poll, you get a legit polling firm. They then contact thousands of voters that are not self-selecting themselves as people sitting on Twitter typing in weird shit. So if it's done right. So Dropsite actually paid a polling firm to do this poll as to why Americans think we're at war with Iran right now. Why do Americans think we're bombing 10,000 civilian sites in Iran right now? The answer is to distract from the Epstein files. That is what most Americans believe. That even includes 14% of Republicans believe we're bombing Iran to distract from the Epstein files, to distract from the fact that Trump rapes children. 52% of all likely voters, when you take the parties out of it, 52% of all likely voters say that Trump is bombing Iran to distract from the Epstein files. 8% say they don't know. 40% say that's not the reason about the Epstein files. So then if you break it down by partisanship, 81% of Democrats believe that, and 14% of Republicans believe that he's doing this to distract from the accusations, and a lot of accusations, many of which the Justice Department still has not revealed, many of which were redacted by the FBI before the Justice Department even got the papers, before they got the files. So we do not have all of the information on these accusations against Trump and children, but we have enough. We have enough to see something. And anyway, this is pretty shocking that you'd have this many Americans, 52% of likely voters, saying that Trump did this to distract from the Epstein files. It is interesting also that they still have to do this polling of likely voters. I don't know why it matters that it's likely voters. Like, shouldn't it just be Americans in general? Because a lot of people that are so disgusted by our system, so disgusted by the Epstein files, so disgusted by the mass murder we're committing right now in Iran, by the mass murder we have funded and armed daily in Gaza, that they don't want to vote. So, like, I don't know why it can only be likely voters in this poll. And I imagine that if you actually were to include not likely voters, you'd probably have far more than 52%. But still, 52% of voting Americans believe the reason we're murdering children in Iran right now is to cover up, for Donald Trump to cover up the accusations within the Epstein files. Also, evidence shows that that search for various aspects of the Epstein files has, like all of the aspects, meaning all searches Epstein related, have decreased by about 95% since Trump started bombing Iran. So it's working. If he is trying to distract from the Epstein files, it's working to some degree. I mentioned this earlier, but I just want to show you the article. This is from France 24, fairly reliable French site. U.S.-Israeli bombing has destroyed nearly 10,000 civilians' sites. That's from the Iranian UN envoy. And even if, let's say that number is wrong by a percentage, let's say it's only 9,000 civilian sites. These are all war crimes. These are all crimes against humanity. These are all horrific. And yet we're acting like this is some kind of legitimate military campaign. No, they're just bombing innocent civilians. Because basically, whatever the fuck their plan was to start with didn't work. Iran has taken out most of the interceptor missiles. They won't have more of those for a long time. Iran has taken out the radars that allow the U.S. and Israel to stop their missiles. Iran has not used most of their most expensive, newer missiles. They have basically used very cheap $20,000 drones to achieve most of what they've done. And so the initial aim has not worked. And now the U.S. is just bombing Iran, just bombing anything they can to basically, they're hoping that the civilians get tired of dying and rise up against their government, I guess is the plan. There is no fucking plan. I don't know what the fuck their plan is. Just to be horrible, just to be modern age Nazis. I don't know what their plan is. CNN did, occasionally CNN does something mildly useful. Usually only when a Republican's in office, because when the Democrats in office, they want to just ignore all of the horror show. But they have put together, this is a supercut of Trump and various White House administration officials calling this a war and then shifting to calling it other things, because apparently now the memo went out, don't call this a war, because we don't want to admit this is a war. So let's watch this real quick. And for those of you listening to the podcast, by the way, it's called The Lee Camp Show on Spotify. It's called Moment of Clarity on other podcast platforms. You won't be able to see the visuals, but you can still hear them use the term war and then shift to other terms.
Have casualties. That often happens in war. We're doing very well on on the war front.
We set the terms of this war from start to finish.
9,000 Americans have been able to leave the region since the start of this war.
Nobody should classify this as war. It is combat operations.
I wouldn't.
So then the memo went out saying, stop, don't call it a war. It's not a war. And probably the reasoning is that Trump thinks he can declare victory more easily if it's not a war. He can just say, well, our special combat operations are done. He also probably thinks it'll not count for as many war crimes. I don't know.
Call this a war as much as I'd call it a conflict that should be very short and sweet.
I don't know if this is technically a war.
We have declared war. So if we haven't declared war, then I don't see that. The president hasn't asked us to declare war yet, but they have declared war on us.
Do you consider it a war? It's a significant military operation.
Strategic strikes are not war.
They have declared war on us. I don't believe in the semantics. We've talked about the language this morning. We're not at war right now. We're 4 days in to a very specific, clear mission, an operation.
Then there you go. Apparently it's not war anymore. Yeah, it's just a specific military thingamajigger that's going on. I like this. This changing in terminology just feeds into the fact that they don't know what the hell they're doing. They legit thought they'd kill the Ayatollah and Iran would fall. That is not at all what's happened. Iran has been planning for this for a long time. And we're seeing the energy shocks, the shocks on oil price. We're seeing those shocks are then going to have ripple effects throughout the global economy. It's very likely that unless this ends very soon, you have major increases in grocery pricing and things like that. But anyway, yeah. And of course, Trump is shooting himself in the foot in the midterms as well, because I don't know who would vote for this absolute utter catastrophe. The U.S. is a headline from the Cradle. U.S. racks up billions of dollars of losses during the first 4 days of war as Iran pummels key Pentagon assets. That's from several days ago. But of course, those numbers have continued. Billions and billions of dollars lost on a daily basis. This is a clip of Pete Hegseth, him responding to the... So I brought you multiple articles about how the U.S. is just indiscriminately killing civilians, killing loads of civilians in Iran. Of course, the school is the most horrific example of that. Actually, before I bring you that, I should just bring you this that Jason Hickel wrote. He said, the U.S. bombing of school children in Iran is the biggest single U.S. massacre of civilians since the My Lai massacre in Vietnam. The Israeli bombing of Tehran's oil storage constitutes the biggest single act of chemical warfare against a civilian population in history. These are grotesque new depths of barbarism. Think about that. That is the largest mass civilian execution, the largest bombing of children since Vietnam by the U.S. That is obviously Israel's responsible for worse in recent years, but by the U.S. And then, so you see that with your eyes. We know that went on, and then here's Pete Hegseth, the head of the Department of War.
No nation takes more precautions to ensure there's never targeting of civilians than the United States of America. From the boat strikes in the Caribbean, where every single strike is assessed to this campaign here, no nation in the history of warfare has ever attempted in every way possible to avoid civilian casualties. And frankly, that's a point that just isn't appreciated enough. Where things happen that need to be investigated, we will investigate to the question shouted in the back. That it's not open source is not the place to determine what did or did not happen. We take things very, very seriously and investigate them thoroughly, which takes time, and which is why it does take time. But ultimately, unlike Iran, who targets civilians indiscriminately, who we've seen in the intel moving rocket launchers into civilian neighborhoods, near schools, near hospitals.
Now he's going into the old tried and true Israeli human shields, because they have a city. Why they need to put their military thingies out like 8 miles in a field somewhere where we can bomb more easily. It's human shields. It's utter bullshit. Utter bullshit. And where is their version of the Pentagon? Where is it located? Oh, in fucking Tel Aviv, amongst the people, where the city is. What? They're using human shields. Where's our Pentagon located? Oh, outside Washington, D.C. And I don't mean outside. I mean, like, if you were to strike in U.S. military infrastructure, you would hit God knows how many innocent civilians you'd kill. Oh, you mean they didn't put it out in the middle of the Adirondacks? I don't know why why didn't they put the Pentagon on top of a mountain in Nepal? I don't understand. It's all garbage. It's all designed to allow them to murder children and act like it's okay. But as we've seen with these double tap strikes, which is where you bomb a civilian area and then you wait for rescuers and others to come in to try and help those people, and then you bomb it again to kill the rescuers, kill ambulances, blow up ambulances. We've seen the U.S. and Israel doing that repeatedly. Well, that is clearly not trying to avoid innocent civilians dying in this horror show. That is designed to kill innocent civilians. It's designed to kill aid workers. This is what the U.S. is now. This is what we are. Just know that. Know that this is what the United States is. It's just straight up murdering innocent people intentionally. Here's at least we can get to laugh at the U.S. Navy on the USS Gerald Ford that is out taking part in these massacres because none of their toilets are working.
Iran has a hitch. Most of the bomb targeting crew are busy queuing for toilets on the lead vessel, the USS Gerald R. Ford. This is not a joke. A set of emails was obtained by NPR, a US public broadcasting group, revealing that toilet wars have broken out on board the most expensive ship the US Navy ever built. And the Wall Street Journal followed up to confirm the tale today. TLDR summary: there are too few functioning toilets for 4,600 sailors, and the problem is worsening daily.
They legit didn't have enough toilets on the ship. And then on top of that, the ones they do have are all malfunctioning because they weren't intended to have someone shitting in them every 3 seconds for 5 years or like for weeks. So literally these toilets are overflowing on the U.S. battleships. So at least we can enjoy that. At least as they're creating this shitstorm in the Middle East, they're sitting in a literal shitstorm. But as for far more serious implications and retaliatory strikes by Iran, as I covered on the last live stream, Iran has been hitting Tel Aviv regularly, has been hitting Israel regularly, but we're not getting a lot of information about this because Israel has banned all news coverage about it and literally will put reporters in prison for years for revealing that Israel is getting struck a lot by Iran. And here is a BBC News reporter saying exactly that.
تازه سانسور نظامی اسرائیل هست برای همین هم هست که نتونستیم اول برنامه.
I forgot this wasn't in English, so I'll read what he's saying because this is BBC Persian. Sorry, BBC Persian. So he's saying, let me also say that the Israeli military censor has banned us from or forbidden us from providing live news or showing these scenes behind me because he's reporting from Israel. He says, when there's a strike or when there's warning siren sound, this is somewhat new, so to speak, new rules, a new directive from the Israeli military censor. That is also why we couldn't be with you at the start of the program. So he's basically not allowed to show live coverage of any strikes hitting Israel, and they could be imprisoned for years if they do. By the way, the reason I trust that that translation is because this was put up by Breakthrough News. Breakthrough News does great work. I worked with them for like we did a few weeks worth of videos, so I haven't worked with them tons, but they do great work. Eugene per year, Ron Ukalik over there. And by the way, I hope I put out an ask to have Rania on the show again. She has family in Lebanon, and apparently she's in Lebanon as well. So I don't know how often she's able to do reports right now. Here's another great, a lot of this is deciphering like all of this garbage media we're getting, like what to believe, what not to believe. In fact, I'll show you this fact check right now that a lot of people have been saying that that Iran killed Ben-Gvir, the defense minister of Israel. Iran killed Netanyahu's brother. I have not seen good verification for either of those. Yahoo News is reporting, and others are reporting that Ben-Gvir is not dead. There was reporting that, Ben-Gvir died in a car crash, and everyone was like, yeah, sure, it was a car crash. I doubt it was a car crash. But that car crash news was like over a year old. So what I've seen does not verify that either Ben-Gvir or Netanyahu's brother have been killed by Iranian strikes. If that changes, then I'll bring you more of that. But I was saying that part of this is trying to see through all the bullshit that's being reported. You have just loads of propaganda from Western media. You have some propaganda coming out of other media, but then you have loads of propaganda from Israel. But the propaganda game is not just from these official outlets. Sometimes it is putting forward a video that you think is real and it's AI or whatever. So you do have to kind of sift through all of this garbage to find out what is truth. And anyway, here's an amazing clip of BBC News trying desperately not to say Israel has invaded Lebanon. Because here's the thing. Israel has invaded Lebanon. Like, Israeli troops are moving into Lebanon, and they've told the people in southern Lebanon to move out, and 700,000 people have moved out of southern Lebanon, and they are invading Lebanon. And here's BBC. Let's count. Here's a good drinking game at home. Let's count how many different terms the BBC can come up with for what Israel is doing without saying they're invading Lebanon. On the screen, it says IDF issues new Lebanon evacuation order. Evacuation for what? Oh, could it be the invasion of Lebanon?
So there's a ground incursion by the IDF in Lebanon as well, Yolande.
Ground incursion. There's one. Take a drink.
There is continuing sort of this ground presence.
Ground presence. There's two. Take a drink.
On the south of Lebanon, the Israelis apparently, according to reports, consulting American officials about their plans to expand that ground operation.
Ground operation. Take a drink. There's three.
Which the Israeli military is saying is something which is a defensive maneuver to
defensive maneuver. There's four. Take a drink.
Protect citizens who are living in the north of Israel.
That was the 30-second clip. They came up with 4, or was it 5 different things to call an Israeli invasion of Lebanon. They couldn't really come up with a good term to replace it. Did I have okay, here we go. Was looking for this article. Here's the article. And by the way, this is from an Israeli propaganda mag, but they are also reporting, basically admitting, 700,000 Lebanese have been displaced, according to Haaretz. That's 1 million Israelis in shelters. So this is how Haaretz doesn't lose their funding or their permission to report in Israel, is they'll throw in a little bit of truth, and then they'll throw in a pro-Israel talking point. So in this headline saying 700,000 Lebanese have been displaced, they also want you to feel bad for the Israelis in shelters. But 700,000 Lebanese people have fled their homes because Israel, the U.S. and Israel, let's be honest, these are U.S. bombs. The U.S. and Israel are bombing and invading Lebanon. And where's the coverage of that? Like, is that something we're talking about? Oh no, because we're committing genocide in Gaza. We're carpet bombing Iran. So don't even talk about it. 700,000 have had to flee their homes in Lebanon. So I mentioned earlier that the U.S., Iran has successfully. Actually, before I get to that, because I get caught up and there's just so much news to bring you that I forget to do other things, such as remind everybody to join up at reallycamp.substack.com if you feel like you're getting a beer's worth of coverage out of my show. As most of you know, corporate America won't touch my show with a 10-foot pole normally. So there's very little to no ads. I get very little, if any, ad dollars from YouTube. Other people that do similar content but don't reveal the truth, they're millionaires. And I basically am able to keep doing my work only if you guys think it's worth, it averages out to about 38 cents an episode. So if each of you, by the way, if each of you were to join up at 38 cents an episode, then my show would be completely funded. But the truth is, I am just looking for a few people that feel like keeping this type of content going is worth 38 cents. And you can do that at reallycamp.substack.com. You can also do it. You can find all my stuff, by the way, at linktree.com/LeeCamp. You can also join up at patreon.com/LeeCamp. And if you want to join the locals page and be part of the community, that's leecamp.net. Any of those will work. Whatever you feel is easiest, and it really makes a massive difference into whether I'm able to keep this show going, keep Unredacted going, keep publishing columns over on Substack that are free for anyone to read, that aren't behind a paywall. Like, it's you guys. That's what it is. I don't know how else to say it. And I know that, like, and this goes for me too, like, we'll pay, many people will pay $100 now to go to a concert. A lot of people will pay $5,000, but let's talk about the lower level tickets. People pay $100 for one evening watching a concert. People will pay $100 going out to dinner now for, for a small group or a family of 3 or 4 or something. $100, and a lot of them don't really think much of it. It's like, okay, yeah, we did $100 dinner, but it was, one night a month or whatever. They budgeted and however they do it. $100 concert tickets are not even the norm. That's probably shooting low. $100 sports tickets are low as well often. And yet what I'm asking for is $8 a month. It averages out to 38 cents an episode. I'm asking for you guys to see it as worth it, to go to reallycamp.substack.com and throw that $8 and to keep this show going. So I hope you will. I hope you'll keep fighting with me in that way because it makes a difference. Okay, let's keep moving. I mentioned earlier how Iran has struck a lot of U.S. radar systems that allow the U.S. and Israel to stop missiles from hitting. And apparently the U.S. is now, because these THAAD anti-missile systems, not only do they cost billions of dollars, but apparently there's a limited number, like a few. Like, there's not that many. And they take a year and a half to build. And the U.S. doesn't have enough of them, and Iran has blown them up. So now the U.S. is deconstructing and moving their THAAD anti-missile system from South Korea to the Middle East, because literally the U.S. doesn't have any left. So they're dismantling the one in South Korea and moving it to the Middle East. And someone made an interesting point about this. Let's see here. Anard Bertrand made an interesting point about how insane this is. He says, this is a huge story in China right now, given how big an outcry the installation of this South Korea THAAD anti-missile system was in 2017. So the U.S. put it in 2017. China, when that happened, it was a major story. China was furious. Chinese tourism to South Korea was stopped. The Lot Group was essentially shut down in China. Nearly all of Lot Mart's, I don't know Lot Mart, but I guess it's big, and 112 Chinese stores had to shut down. Hyundai and Kia had to close their factories. K-pop disappeared from Chinese media when this THAAD anti-missile system was put into South Korea in 2017. And now the U.S. is dismantling it and sending it to the Middle East. So quite literally, to have this, South Korea endured tens of billions of dollars in economic damage and did enormous harm to its relationship with its neighbors and its largest trading partner, China, only for the U.S. to take the THAAD's anti-missile system back because Iran has blown up the ones in the Middle East. Probably not going to hear that story on your mainstream media, that the U.S. is just like dismantling these THAAD systems to try and continue to stop the Iranian assault. Okay, I want to play, we'll play a couple of minutes of Professor Jeffrey Sachs. He was on Piers Morgan. There's almost no talking from Piers Morgan in this clip. Piers Morgan has he finally admitted that what happened in Gaza. No, he admitted it was ethnic cleansing in Gaza. Finally, after years of looking like a fucking tool and acting like Israel was in the right or Israel is somehow moral, Piers Morgan ultimately, after a year and a half of genocide, admitted that it was ethnic cleansing and said it's not genocide, it's only ethnic cleansing, whatever the fuck that means. But anyway, so Piers Morgan, total goon. I've told him apart a million times. That's not really the point. He barely even speaks in this clip. So I just wanted to play some more of Professor Jeffrey Sachs and what he's saying about this insane U.S. military operation against Iran.
Suicidal for Israel. I'm not able to answer any definitive military judgment, but the people who are opining on this around the world believe that is not the case, that Iran.
I think by not the case, I think Piers Morgan asked whether Iran might collapse soon and whether Iran might fail very soon to continue to hold up. And Jeffrey Sachs is saying that's not the case that I'm hearing.
Has held together and will continue to hold together, has vast arsenals of missiles and drones, and we'll see, because this war is not ending in the next few days. And Israeli generals themselves have said publicly this could go on into the fall, and the American public is being prepared for a long war. So even the progenitors of this war are not claiming that this is about to be won. I don't hear that from anybody. I don't see it in the markets either, in the soaring oil prices. I don't see it in the behavior of the energy producers, suppliers, and shippers. I don't see it in the shutdown of production in Qatar on its gas and Iraq on its oil, and the destruction of oil fields. I see a calamity building and a lot of blood flowing. It's a kind of mass murder of civilians by Israel and the United States. This is shocking, actually. We should keep it in mind. This is not targeted bombing. This is carpet bombing Tehran. And I've been speaking on the phone with absolutely desperate people in Tehran in the last 48 hours, and it's carpet bombing. And they're killing indiscriminately. First, we have a lot of Americans. We have a very particular society. We have a lot of Americans who are saying, move on. This is Armageddon coming. This is the promised end of the world. We are hearing
Sorry, I didn't realize I was muted. I think by move on, he meant not move on past this, but a lot of Americans are saying move into Iran. Like, go ahead, continue this, because this is the end times. And I wrote a Substack column about the U.S. military internally calling this a holy war, saying it's to bring about Armageddon, etc.
Lots of reports about this being preached in the military. We're seeing a lot of people who believe that the worse it gets, the closer we are to the second coming of Jesus Christ. And that's a motivating factor in the United States, I have to tell you. It's a significant part of Mr. Trump's base. And so bad news is not necessarily deterrence. It may just mean escalation to Armageddon.
He also, make sure I'm not muted. He goes on to, I'm going to stop it there, but he goes on to say that Israel is committing suicide with this, because you're going to see, I mean, the support for Israel has collapsed around the world, both with the genocide in Gaza, but now with this war on Iran. The support for Israel in the region has collapsed. Israel is a sitting duck in many ways. And despite them claiming to have the Iron Dome, which has proven not to be so iron, more of an irony dome. And he's saying, you know, Israel is committing suicide as this goes on. The interesting stuff is going on with the prediction markets, and some of it's scary. For those of you who don't know, prediction markets are becoming more and more of a thing where people bet on life and death, bet on whether the U.S. will kill the Ayatollah. They bet on whether the U.S. is going to bomb Iran this week or next week. And they also bet on when this could end. Now, with a lot of these prediction markets, we've seen that the percentage, that the higher percentage usually ends up being true. And that probably has to do with the fact that there are insider traders. There are people betting on this stuff that are within the military, that are within the Pentagon, or they give a tip to a friend. And so you have lots of insider traders around the world knowing various things that you and I don't know. And so these markets are often rather accurate. If it says 70% chance the U.S. is going to leave Iran in the next 2 weeks, they often end up to be somewhat accurate. And unfortunately, the markets right now are acting like this is going to last at least several weeks, several more weeks, possibly several more months. But this article in Newsweek is about how a Polymarket's one of the bigger ones, Polymarket user who earned $100,000 with a number of well-timed bets, hint, hint, insider trading, on the unfolding conflict in Iran, has wagered that the U.S. will send troops into the country by the end of the month. The account, Bulky Bull, a name that is reportedly changed many times, and also if you're trying to cover the fact that you're insider trading, you probably change your name a lot. The account is currently sitting on a net profit of $99,000, having successfully predicted when the U.S. would first strike the country and the date that the Ayatollah would be out as Iran's supreme leader. The account's recent success led the prediction market analytics platform Predictfolio to label its owner a suspected military insider. And should U.S. forces enter Iran on any date this year, it estimates this could yield a payoff of $100,000. So this guy, whoever this is, that seems to bet accurately on what is happening, what is going to happen in Iran. So he likely has either Pentagon contacts or he himself is in the Pentagon, or in, I guess, some level of the White House. He's now predicting there will be U.S. boots on the ground in Iran by the end of the year. Now, that's a long time, but certainly horrifying. And this also speaks to this from Responsible Statecraft. They often do good work, but they have written recently about how prediction markets are a national security threat. Half a dozen Polymarket accounts made over $1.2 million betting that the U.S. strikes Iran by February 28th. Those accounts were allegedly paid for through cryptocurrency wallets that had previously not been funded prior to February 27th. So these are people with definite insider knowledge. Overall, prediction market users bet over $255 million on markets related to the attacks on Iran. This is not the first time the prediction market users have profited off international affairs. For example, the night that the U.S. military embarked to capture Maduro, read kidnap Maduro, it wasn't a capture, it was a kidnap, an unknown individual placed a bet on the prediction market, Polymarket, that Maduro would be out of power by the end of January. That person bet $32,000, and within hours, he made $400,000. So you have to think about the amount of money at stake. Like, if someone suddenly shows up on Polymarket and bets $100 or maybe even $1,000 that something's going to happen, that shouldn't set off really a lot of red flags, because people just do that kind of thing. They're like, I think it's going to happen. Whereas when someone suddenly shows up and puts $32,000 on a prediction that Maduro is going to be kidnapped, that should raise some sirens should go off that someone in the Pentagon or the White House or some shit has decided to make some money. Both the timing and the volume of the trading that occurred raise another explanation that these individuals have inside information. Oh, you think? Prediction markets can be thought about like stock markets. Individual traders make predictions. Blah, blah, blah. It covers sports, celebrity gossip. Sometimes, like some of these prediction markets, I've noticed, people will put down bets on whether a YouTube live streamer will, successfully complete the thing he's doing. Like he said, he's going to fast for 10 days, and I'm going to bet on Polymarket that he's not going to make the end of the fast. Like, it's just rife with insider trading and corruption. But that's actually not the aspect we're talking about here, because I guess some people go, who the fuck cares if it's corrupt? All right, so corrupt people going to be corrupt. But what this comes down to is you could actually have situations where people are acting like governments are acting based on some of this knowledge. Then it becomes a whole other thing. Responsible Statecraft says, we worry that government officials can use prediction markets for personal gain at the expense of national security. Big surprise. People with the power to influence international affairs could alter their actions in order to make a profit. Basically, they could call on for a strike on Maduro a week earlier than they were going to, because they know they're going to make a lot of money if they do that. The example they give is if a government official in the Department of War has been invested in the market predicting, they give the same example I gave. Sorry. Then they go on to say, or when the U.S. might strike Iran, they might have altered the timing of the operation in order to make a profit. It is important to note that Polymarket has previously been banned from operating in the U.S. under President Biden, but Trump, of course, undid that ban. Trump's son, Donald Trump Jr., has been serving as advisor to Polymarket since August 2025. Prediction markets, don't you love? You got to love the revolving door in the Trump administration. Not just, actually, the revolving door is being too light. That's not a revolving door, because that implies he left one area and became another. No, it's just straight up corruption. It's just sacks of money underneath the table. I was being nice by saying revolving door. That would mean that, like, Donald Trump Jr. left the board of a company because he realized it was a conflict of interest for him to be in the White House and also on the board of Parliament. Yeah, right. As if they give a shit. Anyway, prediction markets also may become sources of intelligence for adversaries. But I worry more about what it's going to do to other countries globally, etc. But anyway, by signaling when military action might be preparing to take place, military personnel may be put in more danger than is operationally necessary. Additionally, nefarious actors may use prediction markets to sow geopolitical instability. If foreign adversaries want to stoke international conflict, they could manipulate the prediction markets by strategically placing wagers on events in order to send misleading signals. This is probably one of the most scary ideas, is that, okay, so a $30,000 bet on Maduro getting kidnapped, that is not that much money for governments, right? Or for corporate entities or for billionaires. $32,000 isn't a big deal. It's a big deal for you and me. But for a lot of these folks, it's not. And it could be used to manipulate actions, to signal to another country that something's about to happen. So the U.S., buys $100 saying that they're going to bomb Iran, and then they actually aren't planning on doing that, or maybe reverse. They, if you want to see how it could be used to murder people, they put hundreds of dollars of bets on the fact that the U.S. will not bomb Iran, and so then Iran, viewing those markets, seems to lets down their defenses, thinks it seems unlikely, and then all of a sudden they bomb Iran. Well, why did they place those bets? They placed the bets to throw people off, to confuse people as to what was actually going to happen. Anyway, I wanted to bring you those that information about just where these markets are going, what they're saying, and how they're being used to manipulate things. And of course, loads of corruption, loads of insider trading. I mean, you got to understand, these are psychopaths, right? They don't care that they're murdering children. So why would they care that it's unethical to bet on operations in other countries or murdering people when I have inside knowledge that we're going to murder that guy? They don't care about that. They don't care about corruption. They don't care about murdering people. They are psychopaths. And I think it's important to call them what they are. Okay, I have one more story here about about Epstein's death. More news coming out every day about I wonder whether it was a suicide, right? So this just came out the other day, a few days ago, that, well, I should first say this, that you guys remember that the prison guards that were supposedly watching Epstein, at first we were told, first of all, most of the cameras were not functional. The one camera that was functional barely shows a fraction of the stairwell, doesn't actually show, it was one of the two functioning cameras, I think. So all of a sudden, all the cameras are out, and I covered this the other day too. The FBI lost, or got rid of the footage, and then when they were told they had to present it, they recreated I mean, it's just fucking insane, all that shit. But the prison guards, two of them supposedly fell asleep. They were supposed to be doing half-hour checks on Epstein. They didn't do them. They then were prosecuted in the following years for falsifying the books, saying that they had actually checked on Epstein when they didn't. That prosecution was then dropped mysteriously because supposedly the government wanted them to cooperate. So we're going to drop the prosecution of you for falsifying the books. And of course, the question becomes, well, if there's prison guards that know that something went down on Epstein, why would they lie? Why would they avoid checking on him? Why would they not say something happened, etc.? Well, the latest is that one of the prison guards, we now know, made mysterious big deposits, or actually was given big deposits, meaning bank deposits, given hunks of money around that time. One of the guards responsible for monitoring Jeffrey Epstein while he sat in the Manhattan jail cell, her name is Tova Noel, received large amounts of cash around that time. But also, it came out that she Googled Jeffrey Epstein minutes before he was found dead. Oh, wait, so it does say she made mysterious cash deposits. Okay, so she was the one depositing the money? I don't know. Anyway, in the days leading up to his death, according to new documents, the DOJ released additional files pertaining to Epstein Thursday night, including information about Tova Noel, one of the two correctional center workers charged with keeping an eye on Epstein. The New York Post reported Saturday that the FBI record of Noel's internet search history from August 10th, 2019 shows she Googled latest on Epstein in jail at 5:42 a.m., then again at 5:52 a.m. Noel's colleague, Michael Thomas, found the billionaire dead at 6:30 a.m. You got that? She's Googling latest of Epstein in jail 40 minutes, 50 minutes before his body's found. Noel denied Googling Epstein in her sworn statement in the DOJ in 2021. And on top of that, it says, this article says that Michael Thomas found Epstein dead by hanging. But in fact, as I brought to you, initially people thought he had hanged himself by his shirt, but we now can see his shirt. They show footage of like his shirt. His shirt was cut off of him either by the guards or by the prison staff in order to give CPR and to treat patients. They often cut their shirts off. And you can see one slash down the shirt. If this shirt were to be used for a hanging, it wouldn't have been slashed, or it would have been cut into like strips so it could be used for a hanging. So it was not his shirt, meaning it had to be something else. Initially, they'd said it was a noose, but then further investigation said the noose found nearby had nothing to do with him. You're like, what? And I think the reason is because the noose was probably left as a cover-up, but because it either wouldn't have worked, or it didn't explain anything, or they couldn't explain it, or it didn't have the DNA, or whatever the reason was, they admitted that noose had nothing to do with him. The guard says, I don't recall, the one that found him said, I don't recall ever taking a noose off him. So it's like, how are you saying he hanged himself if you didn't recall anything that involved a hanging? Like, what? What the fuck? Anyway. So, and then, well, this isn't making much of the money aspect, because I read a different article. I read it. So yeah, I guess I should have kept the other article. I read a different article that said that, I thought it said she had received $5,000. And this one does make reference to big deposits. But it then doesn't follow up. Okay, let's see if the deposit. Okay, so the New York Post has more information on the deposits. One of Jeffrey Edwards did pretty good. Google the sex predator minutes before he was found dead, but also made a mysterious $5,000 cash deposit 10 days before the predator's jail cell suicide. Deposit. I don't know. I'm confused. She deposited the money to where? Yeah, I don't know. They don't have a lot on the deposit, but a total of 12 deposits began in April 2018, the bank said, and culminated in the largest deposit of $5,000. Chase Bank flagged the cash deposits in Noel's bank account in a suspicious activity report. Okay. So why are they saying made deposits? Okay. I was misreading it. I thought they meant she was making deposits to someone else. Meaning, made deposits means someone gives you a check, you then make a deposit into your bank account. So she was getting paid 12 odd deposits, meaning odd amounts. And the reason they call them odd is because banks, whether they like to admit it or not, I think they normally do admit that they're monitoring unusual transactions. And they probably know that she doesn't normally have this much money coming in. And so then they suddenly see these 12 payments, one of the largest of which was for $5,000. And so, sorry, I got confused by the expression made a deposit. But yes, they mean she took a check and deposited it to her account. Anyway, clearly thousands and thousands of dollars went into her account. That was mysterious. And then on top of that, she was Googling, well, did we find the body yet? I'm just going to type into Google, did you find Epstein's body 40 minutes before Epstein's body was found? I'll just throw that in there and we'll see what they say. Anyway, anyone still calling this a suicide is out of their goddamn minds. And yet, I also love the propaganda of your mainstream media that anytime they're reporting some other aspect of the Epstein files, of what came out of they'll throw a sentence in there. Like New York Times always throws a sentence in there. Jeffrey Epstein killed himself in prison. Like that was, they're like, we just want to keep reminding you of that. Yeah, in the comments, I see someone said $5,000 is cheap for a high-profile killing, but I actually don't think she did the killing. I actually think she was just told not to report it. And also, it's not $5,000. $5,000 was the biggest payment, but there was 12 unusual payments, so that's probably tens of thousands of dollars. Anyway, it's it's amazing that anyone could still believe legitimately he killed himself. Oh yeah, and Virginia Giuffre totally killed herself too, right? She just was hit by a bus 2 months earlier and survived. She had tweeted out, if anyone says I killed myself, I didn't do it. I am not suicidal. She was putting out a memoir revealing the sexual abuse of the most powerful people in the world. Yeah, but no, totally took her life. Absolutely. And Jean-Luc Brunel, the other co-conspirator with Epstein, I'm sure he killed himself in prisons too, as well. Absolutely. They all did. Just loads of suicide all around this. Okay, folks, I am wrapping up there, but Unredacted Tonight comes out tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern. I hope you'll check that out. And then I'll be back with another live stream Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. Also, new Substack column came out yesterday titled The Ruling Elite Fucking Hates You. And yeah, that's at reallycamp.substack.com. If you feel like you've gotten 38 cents out of this episode, I really hope that you will join up there or join up on my Patreon or join up on my locals. You guys keep the show going. Thanks a lot. Keep fighting.